Welcome to Mycology, the board game of foraging for fungi. I'm James Scott, a Canadian mycologist, and I developed this game along with my colleagues at Quillsilver Studio. In this video, I'll give you a brief explanation of how to play the game. The game box contains a rule sheet and a booklet that includes additional information on fungal biology, including some specific details on all of the fungi that are included in the game. There are 126 mushroom cards, and these consist of 23 choice edible species, 25 edible species, 51 inedible species, 3 psychotropic species, 20 poisonous species, and 7 stinkhorns. There are 6 player boards, and there are 140 ecology resource tokens consisting of 36 soil dung, 32 symbionts, 28 wood rot, 24 plant parasites, and 20 other parasites. The game also contains 40 feast tokens, 35 poison tokens, and 3 magic tokens. There's 1 season indicator mushroom token, a season indicator board, and 2 custom mushroom-themed dice. Next, let's look at how to set up the game. To begin, each player receives a player board, 1 token of each resource, and 2 feast tokens. The season board is used to keep track of the current season. It's divided into 4 quadrants. Clockwise from the upper right, these indicate spring, summer, autumn, and winter. At the start of the game, the season marker token is placed on winter, and each time a 7 is rolled by a player, the season marker advances to the next season. The position of the season marker indicates the current season. After shuffling the deck of mushroom cards, the top 8 cards are turned up and placed in the center of the table. These cards constitute the mushroom field. Each time a card is harvested by a player, it is immediately replaced by another card from the remaining deck. If a player uses an action to refresh the field with new mushrooms, the old cards are discarded from the game. Now, let's turn to the game objective. Players compete to fill their baskets with mushrooms. The player basket consists of 4 card stacks that are arranged below the player board. Players need to collect 1 card in their winter stack, 2 cards in spring, 3 cards in summer, and 4 cards in autumn. The game ends with the first player to collect all 10 cards, but more about that in a moment. Let's next look at how the game is played. This is set up for a 3-player game. The players roll to see who goes first, and the player with the highest roll starts. Then the gameplay moves clockwise. We'll call this player 1. The player begins by rolling the dice to distribute resources or to change the season. In our example, 8 was rolled. After the roll, all players check the top of their player boards to determine which resource gets distributed or if the season changes. In our example, because 8 was rolled, each player receives a dung soil resource. Other rolls would distribute different ecological resources, and a roll of 7 would cause the season marker to advance to the next season. Next, the current player can make up to 2 actions. They can harvest a mushroom or make a trade. The 2 actions can be the same or they can be different, and they can take place in any order. To harvest a mushroom, it must be playable in the current season, in this case winter. Here, there are only 2 cards that can be harvested in winter. Each one costs 3 ecology resources, but the current player only has the correct resources for 1 of the cards. The player exchanges the ecology resources for the mushroom and places it in their basket under winter. Because this mushroom is a choice edible species, the player is also entitled to collect 2 feast tokens, as indicated in the lower left corner of the card. After harvesting a mushroom, another card is immediately drawn to fill its place in the mushroom field. The player still has one action left, and this could be a trade. A number of trades are possible in this game using ecology resources, feast tokens, or magic tokens. These are summarized at the top of the player board. Any 3 ecology resources can be traded for a single ecology resource of any type, or for a feast token. 1 feast token can be traded for a single ecology resource of any type, or to advance the season marker to the next season, or to replace any 4 cards in the mushroom field with new cards taken from the top of the pile. 2 feast tokens can be relinquished to trade a mushroom with another player. In order to make a trade, both players must have a card in the appropriate season stack, and the trade can only be made between the top cards in the season stacks for the current season. A player cannot trade with another player whose basket has a stinkhorn as the top card of any of their season stacks. Players do not collect feast tokens or magic tokens for trades. These are only collected when the mushroom is first harvested. Lastly, as one of their actions, the current player can trade in a magic token to move the season marker backwards by 1 or by 2 seasons. So from that menu of options, player 1 decides to trade in a feast token to advance the season to spring. Player 2 now starts their turn with a roll. In this case, 3 is rolled, which distributes plant parasite ecology resources to each player. The player decided to harvest this poison mushroom worth 9 points in exchange for 1 soil dung ecology resource. Although poison mushrooms have a high point value and can be acquired for very few ecology resources, they have potentially negative consequences. As long as the mushroom remains on the top of any season stack in a player's basket, these cards cause the player to accumulate a poison token each time the resource depicted beside the poison symbol in the lower left corner of the card is rolled. Poison tokens are each worth -2 points from a player's total score at the end of the game. Because of this, a good second action for this player in this situation would be to harvest a second mushroom card so that the poison mushroom could be covered. Of the mushrooms that can be harvested in spring, this is the most valuable that the player can obtain using their resources. The player finishes their round by collecting 2 feast tokens yielded by the mushroom. With both actions of the second player complete, it's now the third player's turn. The dice are cast, and 5 is rolled. Symbionts are distributed to all players. For their first action, player 3 harvests a poison mushroom. And for their second action, this player will trade in 2 feast tokens to exchange a card with player 2. Player 2 now has a poison mushroom exposed and can accumulate poison tokens anytime 3 or 11 is rolled, or until the mushroom is traded or covered up. The game ends with the first person to collect all 10 mushrooms. The winner of the game is determined by adding up the point values on the mushroom cards, adding 1 point per retained feast token and 2 points per retained magic token, and then subtracting 2 points for every poison token in their possession. The player with the highest score wins, and a follow-up game can be used to break a tie. This concludes our brief video tutorial. I hope you now understand the basics of the game, and perhaps have some thoughts on the variety of strategies that are available. I hope you enjoy playing the game, and I wish you happy mushrooming.